If you're an illustrator or other type of visual artist, you might be interested in learning ways to monetize your art skills. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can take your original art and turn it into a coloring book that you can either use for your own personal use, as a gift, or turn into a money-making asset that you can sell on a self-publishing platform such as the Kindle Direct publishing platform. If you're interested in learning more about how you can self-publish low-content books such as journals, planners, guest books, activity books, coloring books, and more, then subscribe to my channel and don't forget to hit the bell so that you can be notified each time I put out one of these videos every Monday. Okay, so here's what you're going to need before you get started. First, you're obviously going to need your own custom artwork. Next, you're going to need either a scanner or a camera or some method of transferring that artwork to your computer screen so you're ready to turn it into a coloring book. So obviously this is only if you're working with physical drawings. If you've already done your original drawings on the computer, then you can feel free to skip this step. Next, you're going to need a vector editing software. Now you've got a few different options here. I normally use Illustrator, but Illustrator is very expensive. It's an Adobe product. So if you don't already have that, I would recommend something like Affinity Designer. Now, this program is absolutely fantastic. It's pretty much got all the same features that Illustrator has, but it's at a fraction of the cost. Now, if you don't have either of these two programs and you don't really have any money to get going here, that's totally fine. You can use Gravit Designer, which I've used in one of my other coloring book videos. This is a great program that has a free version that's going to be completely adequate for what we're using it for today. So you can go ahead and check that out. I will leave a link to all of those three programs in the description below. Now, a couple of things before we begin here. I think it's important, firstly, that you try and decide on a theme. So if you plan on selling your book on KDP or another self-publishing platform, you're going to have much better luck if you narrow your focus and create your coloring book based on keywords that real customers are actually searching for on Amazon. Now, if you're new to the whole concept of self-publishing and your eyes totally glaze over when I talk about keywords, you can check out these videos right here on some niche research to help you get started. So 6 ways to come up with low content book ideas, how to validate your low content book idea using Amazon, and some keyword research tips. So those videos are going to be really helpful in just wrapping your head around the idea of actually how to sell this on a publishing platform after you've got the book. Now, obviously, if you don't plan on selling your book, you can feel free to skip all of those steps. But I still recommend, even if you don't plan on selling it, to come up with a theme just so that the book is cohesive. Now, the next thing is to consider the age group that you're targeting, especially if you plan on selling this book, or even if you just plan on, creating it as a gift for someone. Keep the person's age in mind. Simple, basic illustrations obviously are going to work best for younger children. And if your artwork is a little bit more intricate and complicated, you might want to think about targeting young adults or at least older children, and maybe even full-on adults. So just have a think about who it's most appropriate for, and then you can think about that age group that you're trying to target. Lastly, you might want to just consider any simplifications that you might want to make to your artwork before you get going. Obviously, outlines are what works best for coloring books. So if you've got artwork that's really heavy into shading, you're probably going to want to remove some of that when you're in the vector editing program, or even if just the drawings themselves are very, very, very intricate, you might want to think about ways to simplify them, especially if you're targeting younger children. You're going to want to think about how you can simplify. And you can do that in the vector editing program, or you might want to do some of that freehand before you scan your artwork into the vector editing program to make it a little bit easier. That's totally up to you. All right, so let's flip the screen now and we will get started. So the first thing you're going to do is scan your drawing in, either using a scanner, or you can just take a photo of it on your smartphone and send that to your computer. Then you are going to open up the vector editing program of your choice. Now for this tutorial, I've decided to work with Affinity Designer. Now, if you really aren't interested in purchasing software, what you can do is take advantage of one of the free vector editing software programs that are out there. You might want to check out something like Gravit, which has a free and a paid option. I did another coloring book video all about how to create a coloring book using free stock imagery. You can check that out. I've left a link to that in the description below as well, and I do that entire video in Gravit. You could also check out something like Inkscape, which works best on a PC. That is completely free, so you can go ahead and check that out. So what I'm going to be showing you here in Affinity Designer, it's going to be quite similar to what you would see if you were to open up Inkscape or Gravit or any of those programs in terms of the tools that we're going to be using. The interface is going to look slightly different, but the process itself is going to be very similar. So pick whichever program you would like to use. And if you've got Affinity Designer, then you can follow along with me here. All right, so once you've got the program open, you're going to choose your size. I'm going to pick 8.5 by 11 for this coloring book. I'm going to go over to the side. I'm going to include margins. If you want to adjust all the margins at once, you can just click on this little icon here. And then when I add my margin, it's just going to auto-populate all 4 of the margins. And of course, we'll just make sure that our DPI is set to 300, which it is. Then we'll hit create. Now, before we get going here, I just want to show you the couple of tools that we'll be using. Primarily, what we're going to be using is the pen tool. So head on over to the left-hand side here. You'll see this little pen icon, which you can access via a shortcut. You just press the letter P. This is what we are going to be using to trace over our drawing. Now, the pen tool uses something called Bezier curves. Now, Bezier curves can be a little bit tricky to get the hang of at first, so you might want to do a little bit of practicing with them before you go ahead and attempt to trace a drawing if you've never done anything like this before. But I'll just give you a quick run through here. So firstly, we're just going to click anywhere on the document and then go ahead and click anywhere else on the document. And you can kind of keep going and see this is how we create shapes. And when you want to close up that shape, you're just going to go right back to that initial box there and click right inside of it. And then I'm going to hit the escape key, and that's going to terminate that shape. If I hadn't pressed the escape key, I would have clicked and the shape just kind of would have kept going. So this will allow me, once I hit that escape key, now I can just start another shape somewhere else. So I hit escape, and then I can just kind of keep going indefinitely here, creating shapes. All right, let's just get rid of all of these. Now, if I want to create a completely straight horizontal or vertical line, I can just click again. I can hit the shift key, and then you can just see there's a yellow line appearing. That's just showing me that, I'm going completely horizontal, and I can click anywhere I want. And now I know that that line is completely horizontal. So again, I'll click escape, and I could do one vertically as well. So if I just hit that shift, and you can also do them at 45-degree angles using the shift. Now, obviously, we're going to be creating shapes that have a lot of curved lines, and this is where the notion of Bezier curves come into play here. So if we want to create a curved line, we're going to click our pen tool and drag, and you can see that as I'm dragging, there are some handles that show up. Now I'm going to go ahead and pick another point on the page, click and drag again. And you can see in this way, I'm creating curved lines. And this is how we get our curved shapes. And then again, I'll just click on that initial point here just to close it off. Now, if I want to edit any of these curves, I'm going to go up to the node tool right here. I'm going to click on that, and I can click on any one of these nodes, and I can adjust the handles. So the longer the handle, the deeper the curve. And then the shorter the handle, the flatter the curve. Now there are a couple of other options to just run through quickly with the pen tool, and those are going to be up here. So you've got convert to sharp, smooth, and smart. So let's choose a node. Now if I press convert to sharp, that is going to give me a pointed line. And then I can just, kind of move that wherever I want. Now, if I want it back, if I want those handles back to make this a curved line again, I'm just going to go to smooth, and now suddenly I've got handles that I can click and drag again. Now, before I show you the smart option, I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of this entire shape here. going to click P for pen again. Now if I click on smart mode, basically what it's just going to do is give me the length of handles that it thinks I need just based on where I'm putting my points. So I actually don't prefer to use the smart mode because I like to have full control of the curves myself, but you can go ahead and play around with that and just see how it works. And then finally, we've just got the line mode here, which is exactly what it sounds like. This is just if you want to create lines. And you'll notice that there's no need for me to press escape here to terminate a line. It's just strictly for creating lines. So once I've got my 2 points, it just allows me to go ahead and create another one. All right, now finally, you are going to want to pay attention to the fill and the stroke here. Since we're doing a coloring book, I recommend that you just stick to black. But if for whatever reason you do want to change the color, this is where you would do that. Now for fill, this isn't required, but it can come in handy, which you will see as we move forward with tracing the actual drawing. And I like to keep that at white because that's the color of the paper. So the hex code for white is FFFFFF. And then here is where we are going to choose the style of our stroke. So we want it set to line. And then this is where we can control the width. So width is something you might want to play around with as well. I recommend at the very least just choosing 1 point. And this is the thickness of the line you're going to end up with a 1 point stroke. All right, so once you've played around with that a little bit, you can go ahead and import your drawing. All right, so we'll go to File, Place, and we'll go ahead and drop in our picture. Now, I am not much of an illustrator, but I went and rifled through some old drawings that I had from, God, 10 years ago, and I came up with this slightly creepy bus driver drawing that I did. So this is the one I'm going to be using, and I'll just go ahead and position that within my margins here. And then I'm going to go ahead to the layers panel all the way to the right here, and I'm just going to lock that into place. I'm also going to reduce the opacity just so I can kind of see the outlines, but I don't want the outlines really interfering in my tracing over top. So I'm just putting that at about 20%, and then we can start tracing. Now you can do this with your mouse, or if you've got a pen tablet, that's fine too. However you want to do it is perfectly up to you. Now every shape we create is going to be done in layers. So I recommend doing background elements first and then working your way forward. That just allows you to go a little bit more quickly with your process, because things that are sitting in the background, you can be a little bit less precise in areas where there's going to be another shape sitting on top. So it just makes it a bit easier and kind of speeds up the process a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my windows in the background. So I'm going to hit P for pen. I'm going to turn the fill off for right now. Stroke is on black and it's set to 1 point. So I'm going to leave it at 1 point for now. If I want to adjust it later, I can totally do that. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Now, since I'm working with straight lines right now, I'm just going to go into polygon mode here because I'm not going to be using any of the curves. So I'm going to just go ahead and get started. Draw my first point, second point. I'm going to hit escape to terminate that shape so I can start again over here. So I'll just click. I want that to be straight up and down, so I'm going to hit shift. And you can see here I'm going right over the bus driver's hat. It doesn't matter because this is going to be in a background layer. So as I said, I can be a little bit less precise here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I'll hit shift so I get another straight line. And I'm not worried about it being too perfect. I can go back at any point and make any kind of adjustments that I need to make. So I can see that I might want to bring this point down a little bit just so that it isn't kind of tapering off. So I can go ahead and hit the node tool. I can grab that node. Now if I hit shift as I'm moving the node, that's going to keep things in a straight line moving up and down. So I'm just gonna kind of eyeball that. This one looks like it might need to come up as well. So again, I'm going to hit shift. And that just allows me to kind of move up and down on the same axis here. And now I'm just going to hit escape to terminate that shape and just keep on moving along with my windows. Now, if we want, we can go ahead and name some of these layers, just so if we want to come back to them later, we won't just be sifting through a bunch of different layers without knowing what each one is. Because you're going to end up with a ton of layers here, so it's best if you label them as you go so you kind of know what's what. And once you're done working on those layers, you can go ahead and lock them. And then that way they're not going to be interfered with once you start working with layers that are on top. All right, I think next I'm going to go ahead and work on this guy's face. So I'll zoom in slightly. Now again, we kind of want to work from the backward layer to the front and think about how I want to break this up into shapes that we can layer. Now, if this background window layer is in the way, I can also turn that off so that we can't even see it. And then we don't have to worry about getting all these lines in the way. So I'm gonna just start at this neck portion here. Now this is our first instance of a curved line, so I'm gonna make sure I'm no longer in the polygon mode, and I'm gonna go ahead into pen mode. So I'm gonna do my first click, and as I make my next point, I'm just going to drag it out slightly so you can see I'm starting to get the nice curve there. And then I can just let go if I'm happy with what that curve looks like. So this line kind of goes behind the ear, so I'm not going to worry about getting the ear part perfect yet. I'm going to do the ear separately afterward. And I'm just going to follow the shape of this guy's noggin as best as I can here. And again, I'm behind the hat now, so I don't really care what that part of the shape looks like. I'm just going to go straight over here and kind of get back on track once we get to the visible portion of the face again. So like I already mentioned, the Bezier curves can be a little bit tricky to get the hang of at first. But once you do, the job can go fairly quickly. It's just a matter of starting to get that intuition of where to drop each anchor point. And it does take a little bit of practice. And then of course, if you want to adjust any of the points, you can go up to the node tool and you can just start moving individual points around however you see fit. And I'll hit escape to terminate that shape. All right, next I'm going to do the hat. All right, so for the hat, because this hat is comprised of a bunch of what are going to be closed off shapes, I want to be able to add a white fill here, and you'll see why in a moment. So I'm just going to do FFF. That gives me my white. And the reason I'm adding a white fill here is because I'm going to be putting it over top of the lines that we've already used to create this guy's head. So if I use a white fill, it's going to disguise this line up here that we don't really want visible. So I'll just start anywhere with the brim of the hat here. And I'm going to be a little bit less judicious about where I put the lines if I know that it's going to be covered up. So I'm just going to go to the node tool. Once I'm satisfied with the shape, I can add my fill. FFF. And you can see that's just going to hide anything underneath that I don't want to see. Now I'm going to go ahead and name that. And I'm going to turn off the visibility there for just a sec so that I can get the next layer going, which is going to be the rim of the hat. add my fill again. Turn that off, and I will work on the top part of the hat now. Now the top of the hat is a little bit more complicated because there's a little bit more going on in terms of overlapping layers, so I might want to break this up into another couple of shapes. Possibly one that sits behind this rim of the hat, and then one that sits on top of the rim as well. All right, I'm going to give that shape a fill. And I'll turn that off. Now these have ended up underneath and I want them to be on top, so I'm just going to move these layers up to the top. And then we've got one more portion of the hat here, and this probably looks totally confusing right now, but you will see in a moment, once I turn all the layers back on again, how this is going to look. All right, let's zoom out for a sec. We'll turn all these layers back on, see if any adjustments need to be made. All right, now we can see the rim right here. That I think we need to bring forward. Okay, there we go. And then I think we need this part of the hat. All right, this needs to come down under the rim. There's a little bit of awkwardness here, but this hand is going to be eventually over top of it, so I'm not going to worry about that. And I'm just going to fix this rim portion right here because that is not really working. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and complete the rest of the line work for this drawing, and I will meet you back here at the end of it. Okay, so here is our completed coloring book page, and as you can see, the vectorized version of this bus driver looks no less creepy than the original drawing. But we're just going to ignore that for now and move on. Now, once you've done your first coloring book page, obviously you're going to want more than one page, and if you're working within Affinity Designer, and even if you're working in Adobe Illustrator or most other vector editing programs, you're going to be able to add pages within the document to keep it all together in one file. So that's what we're going to do here. So in this program, similarly to other vector editing programs, we work on what are called artboards. So we're going to go up to the left-hand toolbar here, and I'm just going to click on this artboard tool. Now, when I go up to the top here and click Insert Artboard, that is just going to turn this page into an artboard. And when we move over to the layers palette on the right-hand side, you can see that it's kind of basically just created a folder. If I click on this arrow here, we'll see all our layers underneath still editable. You can go ahead and change the name of the artboard if you want. You can either number it by pages or call it, whatever the illustration is if you want. And then you're going to want to add your next page. So we'll go ahead, click Insert Artboard again, and that's just going to paste another artboard or another page directly beside it. And then you can get going on your second illustration here. So you can go ahead and give that a name, and all of the layers for your second illustration will end up within this essentially folder over here. So it's really handy. You can be able to go back and forth and do edits on any of the artboards as you see fit. And you can do this for as many pages as you have. And just as a quick note, if you plan on selling this on KDP, you're going to need at least 25 pages. So just keep that in mind. And then also think about including a copyright page at the beginning if you've got a logo or any of that other information that you normally see in books. Don't forget to add that page as well. So I'll go ahead and add one more artboard. So I'll just do a quick copy and paste. All right, so let's just go ahead and add our copyright page just so you can see what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to go ahead and just move that artboard right up to the beginning of our series here, just so that it exports in the correct order. So I'm just going to set up my margins by going to File, Document Setup. That's with this artboard selected. And I'm going to go ahead and give myself 1/2 inch. All right, now I will grab the text tool. Make sure I'm on the frame text tool. All right, so I'm on a Mac, so this is going to be different on a PC, but to get the copyright symbol, you're just going to hold down Option and G at the same time. All right, so I can go ahead and change that to whatever font I want. And obviously whatever size you want. And if you want, you can go ahead and add a logo in there. So I've got my trusty fake logo that I always use for these tutorials. And, any other information that you might want to include on this page is totally fine. All right, so that's taken care of. If you have any other pages you want to add, go ahead and feel free. And at this point, it is time to export. So we'll just head right up to File, Export. We're going to choose PDF for print and make sure that you've chosen the whole document. You can, of course, export individual pages if you want, but we have no reason to do that. So we're just going to make sure that we've clicked whole document and we'll go ahead and export. Okay. So these are our pages, and it's put our copyright page last. That's okay. We can just drag that over to the front here. All right, so this would be our interior, obviously with many more pages and a different illustration on each one. Now, obviously the one thing we're missing at this point is a cover for your coloring book. I've got a couple other videos that you can check out that go into detail on how to create a cover for your book. The first one is how to create a book cover in under 10 minutes using Canva. So you can check that one out if you would like to use Canva. If you are working within the Affinity suite and you want to check out how to create one in Affinity Publisher, you can check out that video as well, how to create a book cover in Affinity Publisher. Both of those are going to go into a lot more detail into how to create those covers, especially if you plan on selling the book on the Kindle Direct Publishing platform. And then, of course, if you're entirely new to the whole idea of self-publishing on KDP, then you're going to want to download my free guide, 3 Steps to Publishing Your First Low-Content Book in Less Than a Day. And that is linked to in the description below. That's going to give you all the information you need for the actual publishing process. So that's going to include how to conduct research on Amazon to determine what kinds of coloring books and any other low-content book are going to be current hot sellers, how to determine the keywords that you need to use in order to get as many customer eyeballs on your books as possible, how to upload your book, and finally make it for sale on Amazon. So do check that out if this video has got you interested in actually selling your coloring books that you've created. Well, there you have it. Now you know how to create a coloring book using your own original artwork. If you'd like to find out more about publishing low-content books, then be sure to download my free guide, 3 Steps to Publishing Your First Low-Content Book in Less Than a Day. The link is down in the description below. And if you'd like to find a like-minded group of other self-publishers, all on a self-publishing journey with low-content publishing, then be sure to join my free Facebook group, which I've also left a link to in the description below as well. Check out these videos next for some more low-content publishing design tutorials. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching.